Okay, so what we have for today is we're going to be looking at transformations of functions, okay? So what we're going to be doing is taking functions like this, x squared, and we're going to be moving them, okay? We're going to see what does something like this extra plus 1 right here, do to this graph, okay? Now, on your activity for today, you're going to see equations, and you're going to see places for graphs, and you're also going to see x, y tables, okay? So this is how we're going to kind of figure out, well, what does this do? And the x values will already be plugged in. All you have to do is plug them into here and get your y value. So the way you would do this, I already drew it, but I'll show you how you're supposed to get it. So you're going to plug in the -1 for x, and you're going to see what that does. So it's going to be -1. Remember, I want parentheses squared. And what does -1 squared give me? That gives me 1. So I'm going to put a 1 there for my y value. Then I'll plug in a 0. So 0 squared, that gives me a 0, and then a 1 squared, that gives me a 1, right? Then I would go up here, and I'd graph, so I'd go -1, 1, draw my dot, 0, 0, dot, 1, 1, and then draw my picture in. At the top of the activity, you'll see what the general shape should look like. So if you see x squared, it should be the u. If you see a to the third power, it'll be like, some kids call it like a squiggly. It's like half of a parabola going down and then half of it going up. And the absolute value is the v, and then the square root is just, it's like this, then it's shaped like that. But you'll see it at the top of the activity, okay? So all your shapes for each of those should look generally like this. So since this has a squared, it should be a u, okay? So for this one, x, y, okay, I would pick -2, -1, 0. And again, this part of the chart will be filled out, so all you're doing is plugging in the x values and getting me the y values. So you won't have to come up with these numbers. I've already come up with those numbers for you. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here, I'm going to plug this in. So it's going to be -2 plus 1 squared. So -2 plus 1 gives me a -1. And then I'm going to square that, and that gives me a 1. So that's going to give me a 1 here. Then I'm going to stick -1 in, plus 1 squared. So all I'm doing is plugging in that x value in for that x. That gives me 0 squared, which gives me 0. And then the last one is 0 plus 1 squared, and that's going to give me a 1 squared equals 1. So I'm going to put 0 and then a 1. So I'm going to graph this. So I'm going to go -2, okay, 1. Then next one is -1 comma 0, so -1 comma 0, and then this is 0 comma 1, and again I know it's going to be that U shape, so it's going to be shaped like this. So if we looked from here to here, it seems like we moved left 1, okay? Now, for the rest of your activity, you're going to be filling these in, and I want you to pay attention, like, if this plus is here, what does it do? If this plus is here, if there's a minus, what does that do? And hopefully by the end of this, we're going to be able to come up with a set of rules that will help us move everything regardless of how it looks. So some things I want to go over before you guys get started though. So squareds I kind of went over. Cube's going to be the same thing, except you're going to raise it to the 3 power. Square root we're kind of familiar with, but let me go over absolute value one more time. So remember, the absolute value of 5 is equal to what? Remember, how far is 5 away from 0? That's 5 units away. How far is -5 away from 0? Well, again, that's 5 units away from 0, so that's going to be 5. So if you have something like this, like 3 minus 5 equals, right? So what I want you to do first is always do the arithmetic inside. So finish this inside. So 3 minus 5, that's going to give me -2. And what's the absolute value of -2? 2. Okay, so that's the only thing I want to go over before you guys get started with that. All right, that's what we got for today. Let's go.